Hello and welcome to Bob Reeves Brass. I'm John Snell. It's so great to have you joining us from wherever you are from around the world for another live Q&A. I'm so excited about today's special guest. He was featured on the Other Side of the Bell podcast, I think episode 75 that we interviewed during the COVID shutdown. And multi-talented, dare I say, Renaissance man, trumpet player, arranger, composer, lawyer. He does everything, and a master mute maker. Let's bring him on right now. None other than Tom Clary. Tom, you there?
Hey, John.
Great to
How's
see
it
you.
going?
Yeah, how you doing?
Thanks for saying all the nice things about me. Your check's in the mail.
Renaissance man.
Oh, man.
Modern day
Yeah.
Da Vinci. I could just go on and on and on and on.
My goodness.
Now, if we didn't share a booth next to each other at the conventions, I wouldn't have said all those nice things. But I know they're true because I've seen you work in person. So,
Man, I'm really sad that the announcement that they're not going to do TMEA live this year or next year. So that was our first togetherness experience when we shared we had booths beside each other 2 years ago, and then last year too.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, and can't wait to do it again. We'll have to do a virtual booth or something, but hey, we're doing it live right now.
That's right.
So let's do the thing. First things first, before we get started, for those of you viewing from around the world, show us some love in the comments. Let us know, first of all, where you're viewing from. I mean, I'm here at the shop, but we're basically stuck here in the shop. We'd be traveling we're supposed to be going to Japan this month. We're not traveling like we should be. Tom, you're at home. I mean, not doing any gigs yet, I'm presuming. And
that's correct.
It's basically you in your garage and your workshop, right?
It's me all day long.
So this is how we connect with people. So show us some love in the comments. Let us know where you're viewing from. And the most important part, ask Tom some questions, because he can answer questions on trumpet playing, arranging, composing. I mean, you do marching band stuff, mutes, and then if you have any property law questions or anything like that, Tom will answer them.
I hope you prepared a few stumpers.
Oh, rule against perpetuities. But so let's not get silent. Let's start with the first question that came in from Instagram about how you got started in mute making in the first place. So take us through that. Okay.
Well, I've always been interested in woodworking and, of course, trumpet playing. And I don't know, maybe 5 years ago or so, I started acquiring woodworking tools just because I was looking for something to, kind of do. At the time, I was a full-time lawyer, and I was kind of looking for something, a distraction, if you will. And so I started woodworking in my garage and like making little stuff, little boxes and whatnot, mostly out of cheap wood like 2x4s. And then one day I thought, well, what could it take to make a mute out of wood? So I looked at a bunch of YouTube videos about how to make a cone out of wood, cut segments of wood and make a cone. And that's how I got my start. And it just kind of snowballed from there.
Man, and boy, did it snowball.
Yeah, I never really lost interest in it, which is surprising for me, because I tend to do one thing for a while and then sort of lose interest in it, but occasionally it sticks, like music writing or trumpet playing, and now apparently mute making. So
something you have a lot of talent for, and obviously a lot of hard work, because I mean, for someone who started with collecting a few things and then watching YouTube videos, I mean, these I have a few of mine right here.
Hey, all right.
I mean, not only are they works of art, like literally holding them, the craftsmanship that goes into them, but they play as good, if not better, than they look. Which,
oh, thanks, man.
Well, I mean,
a lot of, as my wife can tell you, I spent a lot of time, playing them and playing them with the tuner on and just seeing how they feel and stuff like that. And she's like, can you stop doing all that? So I got a little obsessed about it, making them feel good and sound good and all that stuff. So yeah, I don't know if that's a personality benefit or detriment.
So yeah, I mean, that's how you got into mute making, but what makes a mute good? How can you tell when you're, making different iterations and stuff that you're onto something.
Oh man, it's like the Supreme Court said, you'll know it when you see it. No, like I just if it feels good and if it plays good to me, then that's really the only criteria that I use. If it's working for me, then yeah, okay, it works. And back when we used to play gigs and stuff, I'd take them on gigs and play them on gigs because I play, or used to play at least, quite a bit of theater gigs, and there's a lot of mute playing in theater. So, that kind of helped out with the development of the mutes as well, just kind of real world playing situations, how they blend, how they feel when you're playing with a larger ensemble or a smaller ensemble, that kind of stuff. Just a lot of playing.
Now, in terms of your straight mutes, you have what, 3 or 4 different versions?
I do. They're all the same design, but with different woods. So the different woods kind of give different timbres, and it's the wood. I think I've sort of figured out that the wood on the very end of the mute, what you might call, I guess, the resonator of the mute, is the one that makes the difference. So I have 3 of them right now. One made out of Spanish cedar, which is the softest, and I think it probably plays the softest. And then there's one made out of cherry, which is sort of a medium sound. And then there's one made out of walnut, which is a little bit louder, I think. And then I've got some other stuff in the works with some other materials that I think will. Before now, I've sort of been focused on making like really soft sounding mutes that blend well, but I'm thinking about trying to make some loud mutes now. Maybe use some other materials that might be louder.
Do you have a double C mute? Because that's what I'm interested in.
No. I wish I did. That'd be so nice if you could just stick a mute in the end of your trumpet and all of a sudden have a double C. That'd be pretty cool.
Oh, we're working on it. We're working.
Technology.
Well, I want the first one when you got that.
Okay, you got it.
What would be a trumpet Q&A without bringing up double C and that's heavy valve caps too? Let's mention heavy valve caps. Well,
go ahead.
I said we're here live with Tom Clary. What an honor it is to talk trumpet and we've already gotten geeky, but I mean he makes mutes, so I mean we're diving right into the geekiness, and looks like we got Kevin checking in on YouTube. Kevin, thanks for viewing over on YouTube. And he's asking about what your favorite mouthpiece is at the moment, and answer this one carefully, Tom.
Oh, okay. Well, it's a Bob Reeves mouthpiece.
Of course.
Now, if you haven't tried one, I'm a new convert and proselytizer for the C2J, which is just a beautiful mouthpiece. It makes you sound buttery and golden and pretty and flugel-like. It's really wonderful mouthpiece. I love it. But I've been playing a Schilke 16 since I was about 15 years old, and I'm 51 now. So occasionally I will stray from it and try other things, and you probably can't see it now, but there's a mouthpiece rack over there that holds about 50 mouthpieces, as everyone has. But I always seem to come back to the Schilke 16, so that's what I play.
Tried and true.
I guess that's my favorite.
Schilke 16, there you have it. And I mean, all joking aside, we don't care whose name is on the mouthpiece. We care about results. So I joke with Tom about playing our pieces, and he does like the C2J, right. But we don't care what you're playing as long as it works.
I do very much. And I like your other mouthpieces too. I'm just, I'm old and sentimental and stuck in my ways.
And that's fine. We love that about you, Tom. We got more people checking in on Facebook. Don Colquick, my man Clary, word. So
Don Colquick.
Don, yeah.
Such an amazingly talented human being and wonderful composer and great bassist and just all around wonderful, talented musician. I can't say enough good things about Don Colquitt.
So awesome. We got a lot of friends checking in. This is great. Another good friend, Mike Zonshine. Hi, Mike.
Hey, Mike.
I'm trying to twist his arm to do one of these. So hopefully one of these days. He was on the podcast. So now that I've mentioned it in front of people,
yes.
Yeah, now the pressure's on. He said he loves your mutes, and he's waiting for a bourbon barrel wood mute. So is that in the works?
He's mentioned that. You know what? After he said something about that the other day, I Googled, where to buy a bourbon barrel.
Hmm.
So I got to figure that out, Mike. And maybe I can get it. I think the trick will be if you can retain you can retain the aroma of the bourbon barrel wood. I think that would be the big selling point.
Yes, yes. Well, hey, we're on it.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're on it. And Mike, also, what kind of must is the sunburst Les Paul looking thing over your right shoulder?
that is that is an Epiphone Les Paul copy. It's yeah. It's I'm an awful terrible hack guitar player, but I don't know. I bought one maybe 4 or 5 years ago just to mess around. I like to mess around with all music stuff, kind of write music and write little ditties and whatnot.
Because you don't have enough to do.
That's right.
As a father and husband and lawyer and trumpet player
That's
and
right.
mute maker and all of that stuff.
Well, my kids are grown, so I got that frees up some time.
Oh man, you're such an inspiration, Tom. I love it.
Oh, I don't know about that.
I love it. We are here live with master mute maker and trumpeter Tom Clary. Ask us your questions, whether you're on YouTube, whether you're on Facebook. I can see you, so ask your questions, and I'll ask Tom. Great advice. Trust me, I've chatted his ear off of the things he's done. And he was featured on our podcast, episode 75 of The Other Side of the Bell. So if you want to learn more about Tom and dig more into his biography and stuff, we covered a lot of that in that episode. So wherever you can listen to podcasts, it is there. What do we got? Jason checking in on Facebook. So what about people outside of the trumpet world, Tom? Any plans on Clary wood mutes for trombone?
Oh, May, is that Jason Yazinski, perhaps?
Yeah, that is Jason.
Hey, Jason. Yeah, one of these days there will be a Clary wood mutes for trombone, and Jason, you'll have one of the very first ones.
Awesome. Awesome.
I do have a French horn mute that's sort of mostly prototype that I need to finish making. I was gonna work on it a little bit more and have some folks play test it, but with the COVID thing, it's kind of weird to ask someone to come over and play test a mute while you hang around them. So that might have to wait for a little bit longer.
Well, we can't wait for that. The horn mute, is that, I don't know much about French horn. Is that just like a stop mute, or what is it?
It's just like a straight mute, and it kind of works like a trumpet mute. It's bigger, a lot bigger. And apparently, it doesn't have to be sealed like a trumpet mute does. And so, like, yeah, one of the first few I made were sealed, and I had a guy play them, and they didn't play real well. Like, they wouldn't accommodate the low notes, but drill a couple of holes in those things, and then they start to cook. So I'm kind of dialing one in.
And
so
trombone, you think you'd start with a straight or a trombone or practice?
Maybe a straight or a practice, yeah, or a bucket. I'm not sure. But I actually own a trombone, or my son owns a trombone, so at least I have an instrument to kind of mess around with. Mm-hmm. So that one may go quicker.
Yeah, plenty of folks out here I know we can put a trombone mute in their hand.
All right.
I think my buddy Noah Gladstone would love that. Do the Trombone Corner podcast together. And we got Nick Chafee checking in. Oh, Cal State Long Beach grad. Nick Chafee says anything to make trombones quieter is going to be a hit. So.
Oh no, come on.
We got to love our low brass brethren. They're
absolutely.
They're our support. And
I have never met a trombone player I didn't like.
Yep. Right.
I like trumpet players.
Tom, I'd like to ask you some personal advice about playing. I mean, you kept up a career semi-professionally in trumpet playing while you were a lawyer. How did you do that? Like, how did you keep your chops up without being a full-time professional player?
Well, most of the playing I did back then was like maybe a run of a show. So you kind of get your chops going a week before the show, and then while the show's going, you've got pretty good chops. Show chops are good chops. Um, and That's basically it. It was all pretty much all. I didn't have chops all the time. Like so, I'd go for a while without playing, and then I have to do some maintenance work and to get them going back again, and then hopefully I'd have a couple of gigs to where I could really get them whipped into shape, and that's how that worked. It was always kind of like touch and go.
So just about where you were feeling at that time and what the show was.
Yeah, yeah. Just always, you know how it is when you don't play all the time. It's like you're sort of up and down, peaks and valleys. Sometimes you feel good, sometimes you don't. I guess that's probably pretty much true
But
all
so,
the time.
I mean, that's got to be nerve wracking though, especially like some musicals are a few hours long and quite demanding. So it was just depend
Yeah.
on the musical and your knowledge of them, or
Oh, true. Well, a lot of the stuff, a lot of the shows that I played, weren't all that demanding, and it was a lot of them were um, had really understanding music directors that if you and there were small like cut down pits too, so that if you wanted to take something down, you could, so you didn't have to kill yourself all night long. So I uh, I fully utilized my my lead trumpet player position to kind of do whatever I wanted to make it sound good, so that I wouldn't embarrass myself
do what you
at
need to
least too much.
do what you need to do to get the job done.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
great advice, and a lot of us don't do that. Don't know when to pass, or you know,
that's true. Yeah, yeah, just knowing what you can do and what you can't do. I think that's half the battle. Like if you know your limitations, which I have many, so if you know your limitations, then you can make yourself sound good. You
uh,
know.
I love your honesty, Tom, and that's I mean it's refreshing, but it's also I mean I think that's sometimes what we need to improve because you know
Yeah.
what your limitations are, you know where you can round out your playing or expand things like that. Can you talk a little bit about what you're working on now with your playing? I mean, without gigs and stuff out there, is it
Man.
tough to stay motivated, or are you working on different things in your playing that you normally don't have the opportunity to?
Well, when the lockdown first happened, my chops were in amazingly good shape because I was playing. It was like right in the height of like musical season. So I had like three or four different shows that I was playing at the same time. And some of them were high school shows and some of them were local theater shows. And I was actually played some of the national tour of Aladdin when it came through town. And so my chops were great. And so then the lockdown happened, and I was still motivated. And then so I was like, okay, man, I'm going to practice every day. I'm going to use this opportunity to, really, learn some new stuff, learn some new improvisational language, and transcribe some solos and whatnot. And that lasted for about, I don't know, 2 weeks. And so then gradually dwindled and dwindled and dwindled. And now I'll go, a week or two without playing. It's really kind of it's really kind of sad, but at the same time, ebbs and flows, man.
Hmm.
Strikes and gutters.
Just go with it.
Yeah.
Just go with it. Well, and
So
I've seen your videos on Instagram that you've been busy in the workshop. You've been cranking out a lot of mutes.
yeah, yeah. I have a huge batch going right now. I've got probably close to 100 mutes that I'm trying to crank out. I've never made that many at the same time, but it's a daunting task. But it's kind of fun. It's like an exercise in like logistics and planning. Methods, order of operations, that kind of stuff. It's kind of fun.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, that's a good excuse not to practice. You got plenty to
That's
focus on.
And I'll do other musical stuff too. Like I like to write music, so I'll write a song or write a piece or something like that, and that'll distract me for a few days.
Always good to have a distraction. Speaking of which,
Yeah.
we are here
Yes.
live with Tom Clary. So if you're just joining us, show us some love in the comments. type down there. Let us know where you're viewing from, because that helps us to stay connected. We already have someone from Japan checking in, someone from the UK, so we're already spanning the globe. We've been at this 20 minutes, so it's pretty cool. For some of you, it's already Wednesday morning, so what a better way to start the day with some coffee and some geeky trumpet talk.
Yes.
And we're also, at the same time, we're live on Facebook, YouTube, and on Periscope for those two people that still watch Periscope over on Twitter. Yeah, it still exists. So no matter where you're watching, you can put your comments and, more importantly, your questions for our guest, Tom Clary, and I'll ask them of him here live so you can get his best information, because he wouldn't give you anything else otherwise, right?
Well, who knows? Thank you, everybody, for coming and watching and all that stuff.
Yeah,
and,
a lot of great,
lots of questions.
A lot of great friends checking in. We got Morris, fellow podcaster. He's in the podcast club and the Q&A club. Morris Northcutt checking in from Washington. And Kevin has a question over on YouTube. Are you considering making a Harmon mute?
I am actually, Kevin. I've got plans to make one, and it's sort of a hybrid material mute. I've made a Harmon mute before out of all wood. Let's see if I thought I had one around here somewhere. I could show you, maybe a little show and tell.
Ooh.
Give me a moment.
Okay, I'll tap dance.
Okay.
So, a few plugs while Tom is looking for his mute. Number one, if you are viewing on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to our channel. And if you're not viewing on YouTube, make sure you head over to our YouTube channel and subscribe. We have a lot of great content. All of these Q&As are archived up on YouTube, so if you're anti-social media, no Facebook, your grandpa wants to view these, but he's not on Facebook, all of these are on YouTube, and you can watch them free of charge. So make sure you go over there and subscribe, and we have some great videos that I'll talk more about that afterwards here. Tom, you're back.
I'm back.
Did you find the mute?
I found one of them. I've made a bunch of them. This is it kind of looks like a grenade or a coconut or something. You notice it has like some copper wire inlay there, and this is made out of cherry and Purple Heart, looks like. Yep. So anyway, there's like a little tube that runs through it. There's no stem, but here, I'll play it for you.
Cool.
It sounds like Harmon mute. It's a little heavy. Is the only problem. Is that too loud?
No, it's beautiful.
It sounds pretty good. And it feels pretty good, but yeah, it's kind of like chunky. You could hurt somebody with this thing. So, and it's pretty fiddly to make too. So this is something I'd want to revisit. But I've been giving some thought to making, like I was saying, like a hybrid, like wood and maybe metal or something, or resin or something that would be easier to put together. But that would involve me learning some new skills. So it may be a minute before I can figure that out. But it'll be something to figure out, which will be fun.
I love it. Some new skills. Like,
Yeah.
5 years ago, you watched a YouTube video on how to, make a cone, and now here you are. It's like, I love how you put stuff.
YouTube is pretty awesome, man. You can seriously learn to do anything you want to on YouTube. I would imagine you could probably get most of a medical degree on YouTube if you wanted to.
It is the wave of the future. We got all kinds of folks checking in. Larry from New Hampshire, David from Roanoke, Virginia, Gianni Marinucci, hey, from Australia, down in Melbourne.
Hey.
Fellow podcast club member, and Gianni, we have to do one of these Q&As. So now that I've seen you on here, I have to reach out to you and get you in the hot seat doing these live. Bobby Kellum, Mr. TC, that's a good friend of yours, isn't it?
Hey, Bobby Kellum, a good friend from college, and he is the person for whom the Bobby K cut mute is named after.
That is the Bobby K. How cool!
The Bobby K.
We have mute royalty in the comments.
I've named most of my mutes are named, and the ones that are named after people that I care about. So the first ones were named after my family, and then I've got one named after my good friend Steve, Stephen Gregory Cross. That's the SGC, and then there's the Bobby K. cut mute, and then there's the Kramer cut mute, which is named after my trumpet teacher at when I was at Henderson State University. And it was Mr. Don Kramer. He was a sweetheart. And I've got one named after one of my band directors, Jay Wilkins. That's the Wilkins wood tone.
Mm.
And so I think that's it. I don't think I've left anybody out.
Awesome. So there's a personal connection with each of the mutes. That's so cool.
Yeah.
So cool.
I figure, they're sort of like making the mutes is sort of like, it's like, I guess kind of like having a baby or something. It's like it's part of you. You design it and you make it, and so, I felt like there's probably should be a special connection.
Yeah. So every time you get a mute, it's that's so cool. Now we should do that with our mouthpieces, except we have a million combinations. So I don't know where we would start. I don't know if I know that many people.
You have to have some more kids.
Yeah. Oh no. That's another podcast. By the way, before we digress, this is a problem with you, Tom, you and I. Like when we get together, like we digress so easily. But it's fun.
That's right. That's right. It makes it fun. That's why I'm so sad that we won't get to do a show this year.
Yeah.
So
or we can.
The lack of candy.
Yeah, lack of candy. That's right. Oh man, it was a good time in San Antonio. We are here live with Tom Clary. Show us some love in the comments. Hit that like button or that subscribe button. All those things that help us and help more people know about these live Q&As. What a great way to share information around the world. A lot of musicians are still stuck up at home, not able to play. So we can learn new skills, just like Tom's learning new skills in order to make a new Harmon mute. We could be learning about how mutes work, how to play trumpet, how to make a career out of so many different aspects and facets of musicianship and musical playing and mute making and lawyering. I mean, it's so cool. Larry is checking in. What about flugelhorn? Are there mutes for flugelhorn?
I guess there probably are.
Yeah.
If not, there should be. There should be flugelhorn mutes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you know if flugelhorn bells are pretty standard, kind of like trumpet bells are? Well, I guess trumpet bells are sort of all over the map these days.
That would be, and I think that would be the tricky part because, now you get those really big bell flugels and, make something for the quinone size bell. That'll probably, or a Yamaha, was it the Yamaha shoe is pretty standard.
Oh, true. Yeah.
Something like that.
A good one. And be a good excuse to buy a new horn. So
I'm no accountant, but that might be a write-off.
It might be. I don't know.
Now we have people checking in wondering when they're going to get a mute named after them. So when's the Zoni mute going to be made? When's the Snell mute?
I'll have a list on my GoFundMe page, and
there you go.
We'll be able to maybe we'll have a Patreon mute naming event.
Because there's your teacher, there's your kids. There's your best friend, trumpet player, and then there's the person who donated $5,000 on Patreon.
That's right.
There's many ways to be close to your heart.
That mute will be green and gold. Sort of Mardi Gras colors.
But speaking of which, on a serious note, Bobby K is checking in. You're such a nice guy, Tom. My trumpet playing is not worthy of a signature mute. So very humble and very sweet.
Bobby K's a good guy. We spent many his dorm room was right down the hall from mine, so we had spent a lot of late nights listening to Maynard records and stuff like that. So good time. Good times back then.
Love it. And Morris is checking in, and I love Morris not only because he's a great player and a wonderful guy, but he has asked more questions on these Q&As than anyone, so he's our top fan. In fact, when Morris was on his Q&A, I was a little bit worried because if he wasn't there asking questions of himself, I didn't know if people were going to be asking questions, but of course there were. Anyway, his question is, how much time specifically did it take between developing your first mute and then the actual public release of it?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah.
I'd probably, a couple of years of, kind of from just messing around in the shop to, making different designs and giving them to my friends and, them telling me that they suck, and and then working through all that process and trying to get one that sounded good and trying to get one that's played in tune. It's like, it's like all these different, you change one thing and then and that knocks another thing out of whack. It's sort of like a sliding puzzle, that you have to kind of, all these different moving parts. So probably, 3 years. And then when I finally had one that, that worked pretty well, that people were like, hey, that's a pretty good mute. Then, the actual step of, putting them out there, that was maybe more daunting than anything else. It's just like, okay, well, everybody, here you go. Here are my mutes. And so that was the hardest part. For me, that was the hardest part.
Yeah, you have your name on them, It's
Yeah.
I think it's a lot like performing. You go out on stage for a recital or you get called for a gig and your name is in the program. When you put your name on something and you put it out there, that's your reputation, and it's scary.
Yeah, it is. It is, and I want them to be good, and so I spend a lot of time trying to make sure that they work right. That kind of stuff.
Well, great. Yeah, great answer. And thanks for the great question, as always, Morris.
Thank you.
And you guys should get together. You're two of my favorite people. So I think there'd be some good synergy there. Just saying.
Hopefully we'll get to.
Making connections. I love doing that. Tom, would you talk a little bit about your trumpet inspirations? I mean, I noticed you got, was that Woody Shaw there sitting on your stand?
This is my prop for the day. It's, Woody Shaw transcription book. Yeah, I love Woody Shaw, great trumpet player. There's a local trumpet player here in town, Scott Thompson, who is pretty much everybody's hero. And he, I spent quite a bit of time with him when I was coming up, and his two biggest influences were Woody Shaw and Freddie Hubbard, and so those two gentlemen in turn became my biggest influences. And of course, I love Tom Harrell, and I love Lee Morgan, and there's so many of them. I love jazz trumpet. I love to listen to folks who can play the jazz trumpet really well.
So, have you always kind of been, as jazz playing, kind of been your inspiration? Is that your favorite kind of playing?
It is. When I was in high school, I was more interested in classical playing. Listening to a lot of Maurice Andre, and at that time, Wynton was making all those records, like his Hyde and Hummel record, and that Tomasi Jolivet record, and and he was a huge inspiration to me at that time, just the way he could, he seemed like he could play anything, Maurice Andre as well, and so like that sort of playing really interested me back then. But I don't know, is when I went to college, and then later when I transferred and came to Memphis, I think jazz became more appealing to me for some reason.
Amazing. It's truly a Renaissance man.
I don't know about all that.
And I want to get into a little bit, because you also do a lot of writing and arranging and like marching band stuff. So what advice can you give to a young player coming up who wants to be a musician? Like you have your fingers in so many different areas. How important is that to you in terms of just being able to survive financially and make a living out of playing? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Oh, absolutely. I think that's, to me, that's like one of the most important lessons I learned, at least. And, everybody's different, and, not everybody may want to, like, burn the candle at both ends, or, learn a whole lot of different things. But for me, it was easy because all those things interested me, audio engineering and composing and arranging and trumpet playing, and just all that stuff was really, appealing to me on some level. And so I wanted to pursue all of them, and I was young enough and had enough energy at the time to pursue, whatever I wanted to. So because of that, I was able to do a lot of diverse things and have a lot of different income streams. And when you're not working a steady job, and when you don't have one employer, that you rely on, you sort of have to, have a lot of side hustles. You gotta, do what you have to do, and especially if you have, kids and a wife and stuff like that. Now, admittedly, after I had a couple of kids, I kind of freaked out and I said I have to do something a little bit more substantial than this music thing, and that's when I went to law school. And
Now, who would be crazy enough to do something like that?
I don't know. You tell me.
What kind of dumb person would just give up and go to law school?
You guys probably know that John is a lawyer. John's a licensed attorney in the state of California. So if you need mouthpieces and or legal advice,
and if you need mutes and legal advice, go to that guy. He's on the other way.
That's right.
But it's so true though. I mean, and it's the thing is you never know what's going to hit. You never know.
Yeah.
Like look at Jerry Hay and his arranging. I mean, although it's not like his playing suffered at all, but I mean, you never know how your career is going to develop and which aspect of it is going to take off. That's going to allow you to do the kind of projects that you want to do. So
That's true, and that sort of dovetails into the idea of that. You should never say no. Just always say yes, because you never know what you never know what you're saying yes to. You may be saying on the surface, you may be saying yes to a $30 gig, but that yes could blossom into something a lot more meaningful or substantial. So I'm a big proponent of always saying yes if you can.
And for those of you freshmen that are just starting in music school or conservatory and sleeping your way through theory class or composition, you never know when those skills might come in handy.
My freshman theory class was at 8 a.m. and I may have been guilty of dozing off a time or two. But I had a great freshman theory teacher. She was very understanding and very talented and very smart lady. Ann Ryan was her name. Shout out to Ann Ryan.
Oh man, yeah. I mean, teachers that we've had in our lives that really inspired us, especially, and it's having a trumpet teacher that inspires you when you're a go-getter trumpet player is one thing, but having someone who takes something that you're dreading and actually turning your views around or inspiring you really takes a special person. So that's cool.
I've been really lucky to have some pretty amazing music educators in my life, whether band directors or trumpet teachers or college professors. I've been super lucky.
Well, we are here live with Tom Clary. We're going to be here for a little bit longer, so a few bits of business. First of all, if you're just joining us, I've noticed a lot of people just joining in. You have a job. Show us some love in the comments section. Hit that like or love button if you're on Facebook or if you're on YouTube. Type down in the comments where you're viewing from so we can stay connected. It's so cool. We have Australia checking in, Japan, the UK, bunch of states that I've never even heard of here in the US. So it's a way to stay connected both with each other here viewing in our studios, but then also the people in the comments section. And then most importantly, we have a little bit more time so we can ask your questions to our guest here, Tom Clary. And also, if you're just joining us, if you missed the first 40 minutes or so, it will be archived. The whole video will be archived here on Facebook and on YouTube. So you can rewind and catch all the great information and all the fun and trouble we got into during this live Q&A. So before we get to the next question, we do have a couple cool comments, Tom, that I'll read you here. Robert Phelan, I hope I'm pronouncing his name right.
Bob.
He had to use tenor trombone mute on his flugelhorn. For a British brass band. He said it was a great fit. Not a great fit, but it worked. Just do not make one and use Bobby Kay's name for the model unless it is colored in the style of a Waffle House.
Yeah, Bobby Kay is always checks into the Waffle House on Facebook. That's his hangout.
I don't blame him. I remember going to my first one down in Florida, and I'm a convert. And I can't wait till we have him out here. And then Chris checking in from Dallas, no questions, just here to support Tom. I've known his talent since the mid '80s band camp.
Oh my gosh!
Wink, wink.
Roberts. Hey, Chris.
And David, I'm not even going to try his last name. Wolschlegel?
I think you got it. Yeah. Hey, Dave.
Yeah, checking in 30 minutes south of him in Memphis. But
That's right, man.
man,
All the homeboys. Thanks, guys.
making me hungry for some barbecue.
Yeah, man. You need to get over here for some barbecue.
Which will be my next question, but I have my mom is here, so now we're legitimate.
Okay, right on.
When my mom checks in, we have to clean up, we have to talk about the trumpet, we have to stay focused, and we have to be creative. Which is so. Who has the best barbecue?
Hi, John's mom. Who has the best barbecue in Memphis? Wow, that's a good question. There's so many great purveyors of barbecue in Memphis. All right. If I want a barbecue sandwich, I will go to this place called Payne's. And Payne's is just like this really old school place. You walk in, it's like you're stepping back into the 1950s. And behind the counter, they actually have not a commercial stove, but like a residential stove upon which they heat up the barbecue sauce. And man, it's the best barbecue sandwich I've had ever. So if you're ever in Memphis, go to Payne's Barbecue if you want a delicious barbecue sandwich. If I want some good ribs, I will probably go to Central Barbecue. Central Barbecue is fantastic. Now there's this new place called One and Only Barbecue. I think it's new. It was sort of new to me, at least a few years ago. And they also make terrific barbecue. So I don't want. Pretty much anywhere you go in Memphis, you're going to get some good barbecue.
So
it's just different styles.
So Memphis has the best barbecue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll go out on a limb and say that Memphis does have the best barbecue.
Okay.
Okay. Yes. Go Memphis.
Awesome. We have time for a couple more questions here. This one's coming in from YouTube about your warm up. Do you have a typical warm up that you do? Does it evolve over time? Can you take us through that?
Yeah. Okay. There's one thing you should know about me is I'm not much of a rule follower. And I think probably everybody who knows me probably knows that. So yeah, I've gone through different stages in my life about warm-ups. Sometimes I'll stick to one in particular. Like when I was in college, Mr. Kramer had this warm-up, that probably took you 20 or 30 minutes to do if you wanted to do it right. And I did that pretty religiously for a while. And then I went through, when I played down on Beale Street, I never warmed up. I'd come to the gig, I'd blow a couple of notes in the horn and just go. And then for a while, after I went to law school and I was coming back, I did, that Bud Brisbois book?
Mm-hmm.
I did that for warm up for a while, just a page or two out of that. And then I've got some, like David Spencer, who's the trumpet professor over here at the University of Memphis. He has a warm up that I've done occasionally, but I guess the shorter answer is I don't really have a warm up, but occasionally when I feel like I need to warm up, I'll do something like that, something that involves long tones and lip slurs and nothing too high, nothing too fast.
You're a man of the moment. However you're feeling that day is what you're going to do. I love it.
That's true.
I love it. But look where you are. I mean, it's so cool. Like all the stuff you've done. And I mean, we didn't really even get into your compositions and stuff like that, but we'll do that on the composition podcast.
Yes.
But I mean, it's funny when we're 45, 50 minutes in and getting ready to wrap up is when people start joining. So for those of you joining right now, if you have a question, we are here live with Tom Clary. We'll be on here a few more minutes. So if you have a pressing question for Tom about trumpet playing or mute making or the cool stuff he does, type them in the comments. And if you're just joining us and you missed out on all the fun, then be sure this will be archived. You can review and miss all the information. You can catch all the information that you missed over the last 45, 50 minutes. In the meantime, while we're waiting for the last question or two to come in, Tom, what's the best place for people to find out about you? Website, social media, where do they go?
Sure. If you want to check out the mutes some more, go to woodmutes.com. I have a little website there, and it's got, you can look at pictures of the mutes. You can see demos of folks playing them. You can also look me up on social media. I have a fairly active social media presence. So Instagram and Facebook at Woodmutes, Clary Woodmutes on Facebook. I have a Twitter account, but I never use it. And then if you're interested in some of my little musical ditties, you can look me up on YouTube, Tom Clary Music on YouTube. I also have a Woodmutes YouTube, which has a lot of playing demos and stuff like that on there. So anyway, there's all that info. Sorry.
It's well, and we'll put all those. I put the link to your website down in the comments on Facebook. And then
Right.
we'll throw all the links to these, so it'll make it super easy to get. Because I love watching those videos you do of making the mutes and the different processes and stuff. Is that all in
Those
your
are-
garage?
Yeah, it's all in my garage. Yeah, 6 years ago we used to park cars in the garage, but not anymore. Garage is full of tools and sawdust.
That's amazing. So, I mean, I know we were talking earlier about your production, and now you're trying the logistics of doing multiple mutes at once. How
Yeah.
long does it take to make one mute from start to from scratch to start to end?
There's a lot of glue drying time, so a few days, just because you want the glue to really cure well before you stick it on the lathe, because you don't want it busting up. If you use like use I use pressure to hold parts of the mute onto the lathe. So if the glue isn't cured completely, it'll bust apart. So that's why it takes so long, just because of the glue drying time mostly.
Interesting.
If you could take out the glue drying time, you could probably whip out a mute in a few hours.
Well, that's still that's a lot of work.
It's a fair amount of work, but it's fun. It's like making stuff. I love making stuff, and just seeing stuff kind of like happen in front of you, and also like the process. There's a lot of problem solving involved, so which kind of keeps you occupied.
Now, I mean, we had talked about in a lot of the questions where trombones coming up. You mentioned French horn, flugelhorn. Any other projects that you have working that you wanna let us clue us in on?
Man, I don't know. There's
You had mentioned a sea trumpet, right? There was a sea trumpet mute you were working on.
Yeah, totally. I've got a sea trumpet mute that's pretty much ready to go. I just have to make a few of them and take some pictures and put them on the internet, and I'll be sending a couple to Bob Reeves Brass if anybody out there in the area wants to check them out.
That's what I like to hear.
Absolutely, it's built just especially for a sea trumpet to play a little bit closer in tune than the other straight mutes I have, which play pretty well in tune on a sea trumpet, but this really kind of dials it in. And also I'm using some hybrid materials like what I was talking about before. I've got like some ones with aluminum bottoms on them, and wood and aluminum together. It makes kind of a cool sound. I've also got I made this cool batch of special practice mutes, which look kind of pretty, which will also be available at Bob Reeves Brass fairly soon. You can check those out. They're pretty. They've got like orange heart and purple heart and yellow heart together with Paduk, so it's got orange and yellow and red and purple. Real pretty.
Yes. I never knew I needed more than one practice mute, but now I'm going to have a selection.
Now you do. That's right.
To go with my other matching one, and then eventually there'll be an ebony one coming my way.
Yeah. Yes.
All right, couple last things, and then we'll wrap up here. Larry Brown said he made a nice flugel wah-wah mute out of an old copper planter. And
good idea.
Yeah, and he slit some small rubber tubing for the bell edge, so that would be kind of cool. Like a flugel wah-wah mute would seem like it would be pretty interesting. And then, yeah, the bell size wouldn't be as critical.
That's true. Yeah, like a wah-wah mute, like a Harmon wah-wah, or like a plunger.
Oh, wah-wah. Sorry, wah-wah, not wow-wow.
Oh.
Wah-wah, not wow-wow.
Oh, I gotcha. Yeah, that would be a copper planter. I bet that sounds good.
Yeah, but I think wood would be cool because you got the mellowness of the flugel anyway, and ideas. And then one last question. This sounds like this might be coming from an important person, Brenna Clary.
Oh, that's my daughter.
What's your favorite mute to make?
The mooch, of course. That's the one named after Brenna.
Oh man, I can't
Hey,
believe
Mooch.
what fun! It's so cool to be connected. I love doing this. I wish we could do this more often because here it is, just a random Tuesday, and we're connecting with people, and I got all the good feels going on right now.
Yeah, me too.
So Tom,
I appreciate you asking me to do this.
oh man, we'll do it again when you have some more stuff coming out. We'll chat some more. I'm sure there's plenty we can talk about.
Heck yeah.
So what an honor it's been. And you mentioned woodmutes.com, and from there they can also find all your social media. So
Absolutely.
well, thank you so much, Tom, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks, John.
And thank you for watching. What a fun! I can't believe it's been almost an hour. Thank you for all the great questions and suggestions for mute ideas. And hopefully Morris and Tom will hook up and get a mute going, and all kinds of cool connections. We'll have some more Q&As coming up in the next few weeks. I've talked to Tom Hooten, and we're in the process of scheduling of the LA Phil, Harry Kim of the Vine Street Horns, Phil Collins, and all of that stuff. He's going to be doing one in the near future. So make sure down below, there's all of our YouTube and Instagram and Facebook links. Make sure you follow us, subscribe, so you don't miss these great Q&As. We do the Other Side of the Bell Trumpet podcast try to do it every few weeks. We have a couple great guests coming up. Simon Sweeney from Sydney, Australia, fabulous player, will be our next episode. And Jack Schatz on the Trombone Corner is a great bass trombone and tuba doubler in New York, is coming up on the Trombone Corner podcast. All of that is available on our website, on our Facebook. We try to be everywhere. One cool thing coming up that if you haven't seen already, and I don't know where it went, there it is. I play 2 trumpets at once, and it's not just a gimmick. So head over to our YouTube channel at Bob Reeves over on YouTube, and you can see me play 2 trumpets with 1 mouthpiece. It's no joke. And the cool thing is, one of those trumpets sounds like a trumpet, but there's no airflow going through. And we'll explain why. We do some other cool party tricks as well in that video. So make sure you head over to YouTube, subscribe to the channel, and we got a lot of cool stuff going on over there. Well, another huge thanks to Tom Clary. What a fun hour this has been. Can't wait till we can do these kinds of things in person. And thank you again for joining us. I hope you got a lot of great information. And woodmutes.com and Bob Reeves Brass also carries Tom's wood mutes. We have a bunch in stock, and we'll have more coming soon, hopefully. So all of that information is available on our website. Thank you so much. Be safe. Go practice. Until next time, I'm John Snell. Bye-bye.